So I was coaching a client the other day and she was kind of going over some of her previous interviews she's been going through. And in that experience, I realized there are three types of questions she didn't know she could ask because frankly, back in the day, I didn't know I could ask them. And it made me realize you probably don't know you can ask them too. So that's what this video is about. We are going to talk about the three types of questions you can ask in an interview that you probably didn't know you can ask, and one you actually should. So if we haven't met, real quick, my name is Cassandra. I'm a career strategist and speaker, and I help people find and keep jobs they love. So real quick warning before we get into this, these three types of questions, and I'll give you some examples, it is all in how you ask them. I'm a true believer that you can say almost anything, it's just how you say it, right? It's the specific words you use, the tone, etc. And so you're gonna have to be really mindful of that with these questions, but three questions you didn't know you could ask. Number one, you can ask an interviewer for clarification or if they want more information after you answer. Or let's say after you've started giving your answer to make sure you're on the right track. So let's say you thought you understood the question and you start answering, you can kind of start your answer and then go, is this along the lines of what you were looking for before you continue? Or you can finish your question and say, is there anything about that you'd like me to clarify? What you don't want to do is go, does that make sense? Or did that provide a sufficient answer for you? Please don't say that last one. Or even a simpler version that people sometimes use is, did that answer your question? And I know it is meant with all sincerity and like they genuinely want to know, hey, did I answer it right? But it just doesn't come off that way. Now, a note on this too is you don't want to do this after every single question. I've had interview coaching clients that when we do a practice interview, after every answer they go, do you need any clarification? Or they will say, did that answer your question? You know, do I need to clear anything up? And it's like, oh, you can't do that every single time. So be mindful of this, but one way to use it is like, if you start answering and then they seem to get a look like this isn't really where they wanted to go, ask if this is along the lines of what they wanted. So you can ask after you start answering. But question style number two, did you know that you can ask questions before you answer? Yeah, I didn't know that. Probably like me and like this client I had the other day, you very much think like they're the interviewer, I am the interviewee, they ask, I answer. It never crossed my mind that I could ask, hey, could I have some more clarification? So here's how you would go about this. If a question is pretty generic, like tell me about a time you had a conflict, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about a time you had a conflict. You can say, you know, I'm happy to answer that for you, but before I ramble on in maybe the wrong direction, could you let me know a little bit more of the type of conflict you're looking for? Are you looking for, and you can stop right there, or you could say, are you looking for more of an internal conflict with team members or a conflict with a client or customer, right? Then you kind of can help them hone in on what they want so you can give a satisfactory answer. Not just satisfactory, exceptional. You can also start by saying like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm answering the right question. So could you give me a little more clarification on blank before answering? And then here is why you actually should answer this question sometimes. I've talked about this in a very old video, so you probably haven't seen it, but I learned that you can ask questions when I was told after an interview, like, yeah, you didn't really ask questions, like clarifying questions. And I went, I didn't know I was allowed to. And then I found a friend who manages and interviews people who said one of his questions is always, make me eggs, right? Tell me how you'd make me eggs. And again, I thought you just have to go and answer. And it was actually sort of a trick question of, if they didn't ask clarifying questions before answering, they were automatically out. He wanted them to ask, well, where are we? How do you like your eggs? Am I serving just you? Do I have extra items like butter and milk? Do I have the right pan? Like it didn't have to be like specific things that were asked, but did they ask clarifying questions before beginning? And truly, I was like, oh, I would have failed this. They're like, no, you would have thought to ask it. I went, no, I literally did not know. I am allowed. I am a rule follower. I did not know you are allowed as an interviewee in an interview to ask questions. So just know you can ask clarifying questions before even starting your answer. If you want to know more about the role or the type of client they work with, etc., don't be afraid to ask before starting that answer. And then this one's going to blow your mind. You can't use it all the time, but did you know you can ask how many questions they have for you? I know, right? Like, you can actually say, you know, I really want to be mindful of our time, and I know you have a certain amount of questions for me, and to make sure I don't ramble and just to manage my time efficiently, is there any way you could let me know about how many questions we're going to be answering in this hour? Or not we're going to, but like how many questions you'd like me to answer in our time together? So if you know you have a half hour together and they say 5 questions, you can manage. If they say 10 questions in an hour, you can manage. Now, it doesn't mean that you then break up all your questions evenly. I've talked about this before, like sometimes you'll be answering a ton of STAR method behavioral questions, and then they'll throw in, what software are you familiar with? And you're like, do I have to give examples, or do I just say like Microsoft Word? You know, it's a balance, but it does help you manage your time. So if you find that you have been running into issues in the interview with not answering everything in time, them rushing a bunch of questions at the end, you might want to ask at the beginning, hey, I wouldn't say hey, but like, you know, again, I really want to make sure I'm using our time well and have good time management to get to everything you want to answer all the questions you have for me. Could you please let me know how many questions I'm going to be asked, right? Even the way I did this, and I'm going to leave it unedited so you can see, this is why you have to practice it, because you want to say it in a way where it doesn't sound like you think you're in control. It sounds like you're doing them a favor. So practice it. But yeah, you can ask, how many questions do you have for me? I find that fascinating. So did you know that you can ask these questions in an interview? And if not, which one surprised you the most? Put it in the comments below. I would love to know. And if you want to know about the kind of questions you can ask at the end of an interview when they say, hey, do you have any questions for us? I have a video with 25 questions you can ask. Please don't ask all of them at once. These are suggestions for you. Go watch it here, and I'll see you over there. Bye.